Hello and welcome. Today let's talk about interest on fixed deposits and savings account. I'm sure most of us would have opened fixed deposit accounts with banks or post office, and some of us would even be earning regular interest. FD being one of the safe investment instruments is definitely a go-to option for people who are interested in steady returns. Investment in FD is almost risk-free. So I thought, why not make a video on how interest on FD is dealt with in the Income Tax Act. Not entire interest would be taxable. That means there are certain exemptions and deductions to certain class of people. More about it shortly. But before we begin, if you are new to my channel or if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel for more videos related to income tax, GST, etc. In this video, let's attempt to find answers to questions like: is the interest that we earn on FD taxable? How is the interest on savings account taxed? Are there any exemption and deduction benefits? If so, who can avail such benefits? So let's begin. In this video, we are going to discuss about 3 tax benefits related to interest on fixed deposits and interest on savings account. The first benefit is deduction of interest on fixed deposit. Second is deduction of interest on savings account. The last benefit that we would be discussing is exemption of interest on savings account with post office. But before we begin, let's quickly understand the difference between exemption and deduction. Exemptions are not at all included in the taxable income, whereas deductions are reduced from the total income to arrive at the taxable income. The first benefit that we are going to discuss about is related to interest on fixed deposit. If you have opened fixed deposit accounts with a bank, cooperative bank or post office, and if you are a resident senior citizen, that is, if your age is 60 years or more, then you would get a maximum deduction up to 50,000 rupees per annum. In other words, if you are a resident senior citizen earning interest on fixed deposits, then interest up to 50,000 per annum will not be taxable. For other individuals, that is those who are not resident senior citizens, there is no such deduction. In other words, entire interest would be taxable. The next benefit is interest on savings account. If you have savings account with any bank or cooperative bank or post office, and if you are a resident senior citizen, then interest up to 50,000 rupees per annum will not be taxable. However, this is within the overall limit of 50,000 under section 80TTB. In other words, max deduction on account of interest on fixed deposits and savings account would be 50,000 per annum if you are a resident senior citizen. For other individuals, that is those who are not resident senior citizens, interest on savings account is not taxable up to 10,000 rupees per annum. The third benefit would be interest on savings account with post office. Let's say you have a post office savings bank account and you earn interest on such savings bank account. If such account is an individual account, then interest up to 3,500 per annum would be exempt. If you have a joint account, say you have opened the account in the name of your spouse and yourself, then this exemption limit would be doubled, that is 7,000 rupees per annum. This exemption benefit is available to all individuals whether or not they are resident senior citizens. Let's now summarize all the benefits that we have so far discussed. If you are a resident senior citizen earning interest on post office savings bank account, then you would be getting an exemption to 3,500 per annum. If you are earning interest on FD and savings account with bank or post office, then you would be getting a deduction up to 50,000 rupees per annum. So for resident senior citizens, total benefit would be 53,500 per annum. For other individuals, exemption of interest on post office savings bank account would remain the same, that is 3,500. There is no deduction of interest on FD for other individuals. And in respect of interest on savings account with bank or post office, max deduction would be 10,000 for a year. So total benefit would be 13,500. If you have a joint account in Post Office Savings Bank, then in case of resident senior citizens earning interest on Post Office Savings Bank account, maximum exemption would be 7,000 per annum. Deduction on account of interest on FD and savings account with bank and post office would remain the same, that is 50,000. So total benefit would now be 57,000 for a year. For other individuals, exemption on account of interest on Post Office Savings Bank would remain the same, that is 7,000 for joint accounts, and deduction for interest on savings account with bank or post office would be 10,000. So maximum benefit would be 17,000. This deduction benefit is available only to individuals and HUFs. In other words, this is not applicable to companies, firms, etc. If you have multiple fixed deposits or savings accounts with the same bank or post office, or with multiple banks or post office, then total of the interest from all the accounts would be summed up and aggregate interest would be considered for the purpose of maximum deduction. This deduction or exemption benefit is not applicable in case of recurring deposits. You may avail this deduction or exemption at the time of filing your income tax return. If you have opted for alternative tax regime under section 115BAC, then you will not be able to avail deduction under section 80TTA and 80TTB. 80TTA is deduction on account of interest on savings account up to maximum of 10,000 rupees, and 80TTB is related to deduction of interest on FD and savings account for resident senior citizens. These two deduction benefits will not be available if you have opted for alternative tax regime, but you will still be able to avail exemption of interest on post office savings account, that is exemption of interest up to 3,500 for a single account or exemption up to 7,000 rupees for a joint account. This exemption benefit would still be available whether or not you opt for alternative tax regime. If you would like to know more about alternative tax regime, you may consider watching my earlier video. If you enjoyed this episode, you may like and share the video. Thank you for watching.